Got your hot takes ready to go?
They're lukewarm at best.
It's the Sports Take Lunch Break, brought to you by Office Essentials, your hometown supplier of all the office products and furniture you need to grow your business. I'm your host, Andrew Corns, and we're back with another episode. We've got plenty to cover as always, so we're going to dive right in. Joining me on the mics, to my right, I've got our producer, Dan Sashanik. Dan, how's it going?
It's going good. How about you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you back from Disney.
Oh, thank you. It was a good trip.
Yeah, we missed you last week, but we all took the week off, so glad to have you back. We've also got Greg Bussman on the mic. Greg, how's it going?
Good, Andrew. How are you?
I'm good. And finally, we've got Stuart Holtgren. Stuart, how's it going?
It's going well.
Okay, it's a new month, so everyone has their overtime cards back in front of them. So when the 25 minutes is up in either half, if you want to play your overtime card, we can add 5 minutes to the clock. So we're going to jump right in with St. Louis sports. Let's get that clock going. 25 minutes. We're going to kick things off with the St. Louis Battlehawks. So they've got their first game against the Dallas Renegades. It's away in Dallas. It's this Sunday, 4 p.m. on ESPN. Question I want to pose to you guys is, what's your excitement level for both the XFL itself and the Battlehawks? Greg, I'm going to go to you first.
Can an excitement level be negative?
Sure. Is that where you're at?
No, it's just not moving my needle.
Now, are you a football fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, not diehard passionate.
So why is it not really registering on your excitement radar?
First of all, I think it's gimmicky with the rules, which I'm sure is on your agenda to get to.
Oh, yes.
And, I just, it's not the NFL. They know that. Everybody knows that, but
Will you even turn on week 1?
probably not.
Okay. What about you, Stu? I feel like you have a little bit more excitement. What would you say your level is for excitement going into week 1?
I'm excited. I think I'm going to be a lot more excited about the home opener. But to me, it's I have a lot of friends who are still huge American football fans, and I think it's just going to be cool seeing the Dome actually hosting games again, and just people tailgating and kind of making it an event that I think we've kind of missed.
I do wonder, though, so you had referenced that home opener. I feel like St. Louis was kind of put in a bad situation because that home opener is not till the 3rd week of the season, and therefore I think their best opportunity to capitalize is week 1, where you're going to have the most interest. But by week 3, maybe St. Louis is 0-2. Maybe people have realized the league's not that good, the quality, the rules, whatever it may be. Does that concern you, that they're going to have to wait 3 weeks, and who knows what the league's going to look like 3 weeks out?
Yeah, I'm going to guess that St. Louis would have hosted if the Dome was available. Toward the end of January and early February, they usually do the boat show and a few other conventions. So my guess is, and those are planned, 2 years in advance or whatever. So I'm guessing there was a scheduling issue that they didn't kick off this week. Or maybe they just thought, Dallas is a kind of a sexier debut place, which, not going to lie, probably is. Are they playing in the Cotton Bowl? Because I assume Jerry Jones isn't letting them play in the Jerry World.
They're not at Jerry World, I don't
They're
believe.
playing in the Texas Rangers old stadium in Arlington.
Interesting.
Which is also being fitted to be a soccer stadium. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I did some research yesterday because I admittedly don't know a ton about the XFL and all the teams. What caught my eye was first off, I looked at the Battlehawks roster. Can either of you name me a single Battlehawk right now?
I cannot.
I've got Marcus Lucas and LaDamian Washington.
Okay, both Mizzou grads, so I see. Yep. Can you name their starting quarterback? We all know quarterback's the position everyone cares about.
Tatum.
Ta'amu.
Jordan
Ta'amu.
Stuart and his names again.
I knew it was a T something.
Well, what struck me is, so of all the 8 teams, we all know quarterbacks are what drive American football, at least in the NFL. So of all 8 teams, the star quarterback is Landry Jones, who plays for the Dallas Renegades, so we'll see him if you're watching the Battlehawks game. He had 5 NFL starts in his whole career. He got drafted by, I believe it was Pittsburgh, and he played backup to Roethlisberger for a couple of years. Landry Jones is your star player you're building essentially your league around. How's
Star in quotes.
Star in quotes. I mean, quite honestly, the Renegades coach is Bob Stoops, who most of you probably know from Oklahoma. This screams AAF last year. So last year, the AAF really banked all of their things on people will just watch football because it's football. And honestly, the star of that league was Steve Spurrier as a coach. And to me, I immediately go, oh my God, their star is Bob Stoops. That's not sustainable. They're gonna completely crumble within 4 or 5 weeks.
It's possible. Yeah. First of all, I thought Landry Jones was a character from Friday Night Lights. But going back to the top of the show for me, I think comparing it to the NFL is probably not fair or correct. But still, I just don't know that. I mean, how diehard of a football fan do you have to be to get excited about this?
I mean, I've seen a fair amount of old ex-Rams diehards in St. Louis that are really getting on board. And I think at least on the Battlehawks, Kurt Hunsinger has done a pretty good job with events. They had several meet and greets this week and happy hours, and those seem to be received pretty well. They have a ground game going, and they have some interesting ideas on what they're going to do to get some atmosphere in there. So,
well, good for them, I guess. Then I shouldn't automatically just poo-poo something that is trying to do something good for St. Louis.
I don't think it's a problem with the Battlehawks themselves.
The league, it has an uphill.
Well, so here's one thing: there are no owners. You guys know that, right? Like Vince McMahon owns all the teams. There are not 8 different owners who run teams. So there's this very much a monopoly.
That's a problem within itself.
That's a huge problem. And here's the other thing to me in terms of like from the fans' perspective. Maybe you guys can let me know if you agree or disagree. I think there are a lot of people who love football, NFL football at least. But the problem is they're going to turn on this game, and if they're not fully familiar with the XFL, they're going to realize the rules are completely different. There's different kickoff rules, different punting rules. There's multiple ways you can get extra points after touchdowns, 1, 2, 3, 4. The clock is going to continuously run the whole game up until the 2-minute warning, at which it stops constantly. I mean, if you're not fully aware of what's going on, you're going to be completely thrown off. If the refs aren't fully understood with what's going on, if the commentators aren't doing a very good job of keeping you informed, they're going to lose an audience within 10, 15 minutes if they just realize the rules aren't the same, the quality of play is not the same. And the other thing to me that I was really wanting you to weigh in on, Stu, because I think you and I align on this. So I'm a diehard soccer fan. You are too. I will watch any soccer match if it's on. I just love the sport, whether it's a Premier League match, a Liga MX in Mexico, an MLS game, something in the French league. It doesn't matter. I'll just watch a soccer game. I don't get the sense that there are a ton of football fans in terms of professional leagues. I don't know many of my friends who are huge NFL guys who watch Canadian Football League, Arena Football League. Name another pro league that they watch. They don't. They watch the NFL. That is to them pro football. It's not the same as it is for you and me who watch soccer. So I think there's a philosophical thing with just American football audiences who think the NFL is it.
But they probably watch college football.
But that's not pro. What I'm saying is strictly pro.
It's still
these guys are probably not as good as some of the best college guys. I mean, a lot of these guys, I'm looking at, these guys went to James Madison, Globe Tech, Fort Valley State. Where are these colleges? I'll take Alabama and LSU over these guys.
I think they're just hanging on to a dream, and they have an opportunity to prolong, the real world a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I would say the Power 5 conferences in college football are basically their own league. I mean, we're not seeing a lot of people going out there watching, North Dakota State when they're on TV or Appalachian State. I mean, people aren't going to watch that. So I'd agree with you in the most part on that there's not a ton of just casual American football fans out there who are necessarily keen on this, but I think if they're going to give it a shot, this is the time of year to give it a shot where things are a little bit slower, and they're hoping to cash in on that Super Bowl, hangover to carry over, whatever.
There is kind of a sports lull until maybe March Madness.
Yeah, and well, Stu and I were talking about it off air right before we got on the mics, but I often wonder if the reason the AAF was not successful last year and the reason why I think the XFL is going to be very problematic is I think that there's almost that burnout sense where somebody who's a huge NFL fan spent a lot of months really enjoying the NFL, and I think they just kind of want to take a break, and they're really not going to get back into it until the draft rolls around, mid to late April. I personally think there's sort of an exhaustion level around NFL football fans that I don't know many people who are my friends who are NFL guys who are even – this isn't even on their radar. They don't care about the XFL. It's not even registering. So, while I think it might do okay in St. Louis, I don't think a big market like Houston or LA or New York, I don't think any of those states or cities are going to care.
No, well, St. Louis is unique in that it was spurned by the NFL, and there's probably more of a football-hungry crowd built in here than there is in places like Dallas or New York. And the one thing I do think the XFL has going for it is the TV contract. If they're going to have a chance, it's because of that. They're on Fox, they're on ESPN, they're going to get plenty of exposure. So, if it doesn't work, I guess it comes down to fans' appetite for more football this time of year.
Yeah, and with having ESPN, ABC, and Fox broadcasting the games, I think it's very important if the league wants to be successful. They have to make sure SportsCenter, First Take, PTI, all those shows that are on all the time have to really feature XFL, because if you're not getting the journalists and all the media into it, it's impossible to get fan engagement if you're not talking about it 24/7. If Colin Cowherd's not going on hour-long rants about the XFL, just casual sports fans aren't going to care about it.
I have a hard time picturing that, but
I do too.
But I think ESPN's going to be maybe even more interested in XFL than they are typically in the NHL, if we're honest.
it wouldn't be hard to do either. So
yeah, so that it wouldn't surprise me if in pardon the interruption, they go with lead with XFL at least for the first week over anything NHL related.
Well, it is also kind of the doldrums of the NHL season as well. So I mean,
it's going to be interesting. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
My TV will be on the game on Sunday, but I don't know about the following Sunday. I'll kind of say that. So
week to week.
Yeah, we'll touch base again next week and see how week one went. But I'll definitely be curious what you guys think after the first week.
And I would think even beyond the draft, NFL free agency would have the potential to bump the XFL out of the spotlight.
Yeah. So what's funny is the XFL. It's 10 regular season weeks, and then there's 2 weeks of playoffs. There are championships the day after the NFL draft. And I get that they're trying to use the draft as a platform to keep them relevant, but I actually think the opposite's going to work. And if they're trying to build their championship the same week of the draft, are they insane? I mean, people are going to be way more into NFL draft than XFL championship. And what are St. Louis doing in the East? Answer me on that one. We're in the Eastern Conference?
Well, St. Louis
weird.
just bounces around between. I mean, we're in the middle of the country, so it's kind of. The Cardinals used to be in the NL East.
I mean, we're in Kansas, so.
I'm going to leave that one.
Right.
Well, let's switch gears. We're going to stick to football, but we're going to go to NFL football. St. Louis really proud to have Isaac Bruce get named to the Hall of Fame this last week. First question, what took him so long to get in? Why do you guys think it took him a little longer than we had hoped?
Well, the NFL has the limit to how many they can get in every year, correct? I think it's
Yes.
five.
It's
Five players, so that limits him. And Bruce was never a, shall we say, really flashy player. He wasn't a huge ego out there. He obviously played in St. Louis and not somewhere more exciting like New York City or Dallas or, well, Green Bay, I guess, is more exciting in NFL terms. So I think those all worked against him, and he was always overshadowed by another receiver over the course of his career. It was Rice for most of it, and then, Marvin Harrison and Larry Fitzgerald at the very end. Yeah, Terrell Owens. And
I think they just had to clear out the overhead that was – I mean, there's no question he was a Hall of Famer, but I think, like Stuart said, some of those flashier players were maybe deemed to go in ahead of him, and he just had to kind of wait his turn, for lack of a better way to describe it.
Yeah, and I think the St. Louis connection worked against him also for a little bit because, I mean, the NFL obviously voted in Orlando Pace a few years ago, and that was very fresh after the Rams move, and they handled it very, very poorly, editing out Pace's St. Louis parts of his speech before they upload it and those kind of things. So I think they might have it wouldn't surprise me if the cynical part of me says if there was an internal memo saying, hey, let's distance ourselves from, St. Louis related things for a couple years more.
Well, then that makes me hope they put Torrey Holt in next year.
He's definitely going in at some point.
Holt's going in for sure.
Which would put this 99 to 2001 Rams team, if Holt gets in, it'll give him 5 Hall of Fame players on the offensive side, which is more than the Bill Walsh 49ers had. It's more than 78 Steelers had. So that puts them in elite company in terms of all-time great offensive teams, which we know how good they were. I agree, though. I think Michael Irvin actually said it somewhere last week that the reason Isaac Bruce wasn't in already was just because he wasn't the flashiest guy, and he wasn't an ego or a diva like a lot of those high-profile wide receivers are, but he felt certainly that he deserved to be in there.
Well, it's unfortunate that that's a qualification to get into the Hall of Fame, but...
Well, that brings me to my next question. I'm curious where you guys go on this, since we all know wide receivers are kind of flashy. Where would you rank Isaac Bruce in the all-time wide receiver list? You don't necessarily have to give me your full list, but are you talking, is he top 3, top 5, top 10? Where does he slot in for you?
I would say he's top 10, closer to top 5, maybe 6 or 7 range. There's some obvious number 1, number 2 guys out there, Rice and Randy Moss, and we talked about this yesterday off air. And I mean, Bruce is amazing, but the time period that he played in also put up some gaudy numbers. And to me, by my bias in there, I definitely absolutely put him in the top 10 for sure.
I was going to say the exact same thing. Top 10, maybe just outside the top 5.
Are there any that come to your mind that certainly eclipse him?
Well, like Stuart mentioned, Rice and Moss and probably Michael Irvin. That's just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's... I feel like I'm forgetting.
It's okay. I brought a list. I'm a list guy. I am. So Stuart and I talked about this off air yesterday, and I worked on a list overnight. So I agree. Rice and Moss 1 and 2 for me, no doubt.
Terrell Owens.
I've got Terrell Owens at 3. Stuart, you also know I tend to favor championships. I think that's very important. However, I think wide receiver is kind of a unique position where the quarterback, I think, has more influence over the course of a game that I think championships weigh more to a quarterback than a receiver. A lot of times the receiver can do a lot to get them to a Super Bowl, but the influence isn't as much. So I don't grade Super Bowl wins necessarily. So I have Owens at 3. I've got Larry Fitzgerald at 4. He's never had the kind of quarterbacks that Rice, Moss, Owens, Harrison, some of these guys have had. So I think Larry Fitzgerald's longevity. I've got Marvin Harrison at 4. Largent at I've got Fitzgerald at 4, Harrison at 5, Largent at 6. Then I've got kind of a mix of them: Chris Carter, Michael Irvin, Isaac Bruce, Tim Brown, Calvin Johnson. There's a bunch of guys that I think are kind of right in that mix. So I'd say Bruce is probably somewhere between 6 and 10 realistically.
Yeah.
Dan, agree, disagree?
I'm going over 10. I'm going to say he's top 20, and that's about it.
Wow. Why do you say he's so far removed from the top 10?
Well, I mean, some of these guys, you look at them, and you got to take longevity out of the NFL because these guys get roughed up every practice. So you gotta think that some of these guys that just don't last long are great receivers. They just don't.
So are you punishing Isaac Bruce for being durable?
No. I'm just saying that.
Sounds like it.
It does sound like it. Yeah.
There's skill out there, and I just think that there's skill all the way around, and it's hard to place him in the top 10. Just for me.
Wow. I mean, because I would agree that guys like Sterling Sharp and Calvin Johnson, who didn't have long careers, no doubt were trending that way, but I can't I have to take them down a notch because of the longevity, the lack of longevity. But it's an interesting take, Dan.
Calvin Johnson never had a championship either, did he?
He didn't. And, a lot of these guys didn't. Owens made a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Fitzgerald made the Super Bowl with the Cardinals. They lost to the Steelers. Harrison's got one. A few of them have some. Even Randy Moss never won one. He made it with that juggernaut 18-0 Patriots team. They lost that year to the Giants. But I ultimately don't think that a Super Bowl comes down to a receiver, personally. Last topic we're going to
before we go, I just have to say that I think all these Hall of Fames are a bunch of bull crap anyway.
Well, you're not going to get a debate from me on that one.
No, I mean I just think it's stupid that we're still only 5 guys can be in every year. Are you kidding me? I mean, why are we voting like this? Why are we hindering guys for all this kind of stuff when they're good players. Put them in. I don't care if you have 50 people inducted one year.
Well, it's pretty many, but
yeah,
it's for the fans to debate and to create endless amounts of controversy. To me, that's the big thing. I think
there's an air of elitist nature to a Hall of Fame though that kind of bothers me, where I wish that the writers who vote on the Hall of Fames would maybe narrow it down to a finalist list and then leave it fully up to the fans, because ultimately we're the ones paying the money to go to these museums, which is all they are, is just museums. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's just me personally.
Yeah, that kind of thing. You also run the risk of, remember when they did the all-century team for baseball and Stan Musial got left off the top 100 by the fan vote. That was a big embarrassment for baseball. But, a list of finalists would certainly have fixed that.
Sure.
But
no, that's a good point. Can't always trust the fans. You never know what we're going to do sometimes.
That's for sure.
Okay, we got about 4 minutes left on this half, so we're going to get into the Blues. We're really in the dog days right now. The season just seems like it's going on and on, but they've hit a little bit of a slump over the last couple of weeks or so. You guys concerned with the slump? Does it bother you at all?
Not really. A slump's inevitable. No one's going to go 20 games without a loss in the NHL at this time period. That Western Canada trip is always pretty tough. They just finished it. I think it was really unfortunate scheduling for the Blues that they had both of their games two games against Edmonton and a game against Calgary right in between when those two teams played each other twice. And the battle for Alberta between Calgary and Edmonton has been very fiery this year. And
goalie fights and all.
Yeah, goalie fights. Both teams, both Calgary and Edmonton, were obviously really amped up, I think, in part because of those rivalry games, and the Blues just got caught in the middle. And against Winnipeg, they were just bad.
Greg, any concern from you?
Not really. I agree that it's dog days of the season are here, and a slump is inevitable during a long season. I think they played okay on that trip. It wasn't great, obviously, but I don't think there was much to panic about. I think you're going to just go through that over the course of a long season.
I actually kind of like when they go through little slumps, as long as they don't extend to like 5 or 6 game losing streaks. But I think dealing with adversity in the regular season can only make you better and more prepared for the playoffs.
I agree, and it kind of takes you out of that President's Trophy conversation too, which
is a good thing.
Which I know is important to you, because it's like the kiss of death in the playoffs. But
yeah, exactly.
But they're still comfortably in the lead in the West, and not as comfortably maybe.
Those standings can be deceiving, just like last year. The games in hand is always a thing. Colorado's got 3 in hand with an 8-point difference.
Well, that's only a benefit if you win them, right? So
that's right. I do worry though if they slip though and Colorado jumps past them. The idea of playing the Stars in the first round, if you don't win the division, I don't know. The Stars to me are a team that's kind of sneaky right now that could catch somebody.
Yeah. It's too soon to worry about that, I think. But I guess keep one eye towards the playoffs. But I'm bottom line is I think you go through ups and downs throughout the course of a season, and if they'd had a little more scoring on this trip, the result would have been a lot different. So if you're going to look at anything, maybe it's the fact that some of the scoring seems to have dried up a little bit.
Bennington's kind of dropped his.
It's been a little shaky.
Yeah, I was looking at his numbers this morning. He's at his season. He's at a 2.63 goals against and a .911 save percentage. That just happens to be almost identical to the career numbers of Jake Allen. Back to my point that they're the same guy.
Has anybody ever seen them anywhere at the same time?
No. They both wear hat and glasses, and I was actually going to say Allen really, I thought, had a pretty poor game against Edmonton. I think it was the first one. Mostly just I didn't catch the whole game. I was a little distracted, but I think it was Draisaitl's second goal in that first game or first goal. I mean, Allen just gave way too much of the net on the glove side to a guy like Draisaitl. I thought it was really poor positioning. I thought he was kind of out of sorts for that game. I think Allen's been very good this season, but that game was a bit of a disappointment from his performance. Not that the rest of the team was spectacular.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll pick it back up in the next week or two. It's inevitable. They're going to go through some ebbs and flows. Well, that is the end of the first half. Does anybody want to throw in their overtime card to add 5 minutes, or feel comfortable moving on?
I'll toss mine in real quick.
Oh.
Just if we're getting close to this trade deadline talk, I don't know if I have 5 minutes worth of talking about it.
Well, let's do it.
Well, better.
Well,
It's all you, Stu. You got 5 minutes uninterrupted.
oh, geez. I'm not going to do
It's like a homily. Just go.
a homily? Okay, so trade deadline talk. The Blues have been connected a lot to Chris Kreider in New York with the Rangers. And Kreider is a rental, so he's a UFA at the end of the year, so he wouldn't affect maybe re-signing Pietrangelo. But he is also a valuable asset, and his going rate would probably be, I assume the Rangers would want a B or a blue chip prospect plus a first for him. And I don't know if the Blues are in a position to really go for that, or I don't know if he puts him over the hump necessarily. He's obviously a very, very good player. I would be more than willing giving up a first and maybe Costin for him, but it sounds like the Rangers are really interested in Kyrou, and I don't know what you guys think about giving up Kyrou for a rental. There really isn't much in the way of top six prospects offensively for the Blues, with Bach being gone and some graduations.
While I think as a fan base, Cardinal fans, Blues fans, so maybe St. Louis fans can get a little precious about their prospects, Kyrou is not one that I would let go.
Yeah, I think we've seen enough of him at an NHL level to.
Yeah, he's
got it.
Yeah, of course, one could say, well, why isn't he playing more? But that's probably another discussion.
Yeah, and Kyrou was one of the ones that the Sabres wanted last year. Kyrou and Thomas were both the ones that the Sabres really wanted for obvious reasons in the Ryan O'Reilly trade. And if Doug Armstrong didn't give him up for Ryan O'Reilly, I have a hard time seeing him give him up for a rental. But, I mean, circumstances are obviously maybe a little bit different this year than last year.
I do wonder, though, we all know how close to the vest Armstrong tends to be, and a lot of the times the moves he actually makes are the ones completely in the dark. I wonder if the Chris Kreider stuff's kind of like a distraction method for anything that may actually be happening or not happening.
Well, I have a theory.
What's your theory?
I told you about. I think I told you about this a few days ago. My theory is that Armstrong doesn't really want to do anything. He's just sending a message to the team that it's possible and that they need to keep their foot on the gas, so to speak, because he's looming, and if he doesn't like what he sees, he could trade somebody, but his preference is not to make a deal, to keep the unit intact. This is just a shot across the bow of the locker room. Is it bow or bow? It's bow, right?
I think it's bow, yeah.
Semantics. Yeah. This is just a shot across the locker room to just kind of wake everybody up, maybe from the doldrums and the bad stretch of play we've had here recently.
I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Do you expect Tarasenko to play in the playoffs this year?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know when. I don't know if it's right at the beginning or, I've seen different timetables, but they might have to get through a round or two to get him back. But as they say, that would be like a trade, right?
Yeah,
It's like a new signing.
They said it was late March, early March was his return timetable. And
I've seen some differing things.
I
Yeah.
think late March is the most consistent one I've seen, but
so he should be back by the first round. It may take him until the second round to shake off any rust he has, but
yeah, and you're getting Sammy Blay back now, which is to me big. I think that guy's played really well since the playoffs last year. So I don't think Armstrong is ready to. I think he's ready to maybe go all in one more time with this group, but doesn't want him to get complacent.
I think that makes sense. We got about 30 seconds left on the overtime. I'm going to ask you, I saw the standings. The Blackhawks are actually in a position right now. If the playoffs started today, they'd be the wild card team. Would you rather play Colorado, Dallas, or Chicago first round?
always want to play Chicago. Always want to play the rival.
Chicago.
Wow, okay. I'm actually saying I don't want to go near Chicago. I have too many bad memories.
I don't think they have enough firepower this year to be too overly concerning.
Yeah, they do scare me though. As that,
I mean,
that
they're always scary, but Dallas is. They're all scary. There's Colorado, Dallas.
Thunderdome.
Yeah.
I'm scared of New Jersey. Can I be scared of
You
New
just
Jersey?
can't let New Jersey go, can you, Dan?
Nope.
All right, that'll do it for this segment. Before we switch gears and go over to the rest of the sports world, here's a quick word from Office Essentials.
This is Emily from Office Essentials. Did you know that germs on hands can be transferred up to 7 times, making frequently touched surfaces in the office hotspots for viruses? And a virus can spread through an entire office in just a few hours. Some germs can even live for days on hard surfaces. So hotspots like door handles, keyboards, light switches, desktops, and even elevator buttons should be cleaned even more often. And don't forget about the kitchen. Break rooms have some of the germiest surfaces in the entire office. Sink faucets, microwaves, and refrigerator handles too. Office Essentials can help you protect your office from sickness this flu season. Right now at stlofficesupplies.com, we're offering a free printable poster that you can print and hang around your office. It contains tips to help coworkers prevent the spread of the flu. Office Essentials is your hometown supplier of all the office supplies and furniture you need to run and grow your business. Learn more today at stlofficesupplies.com.
Okay, welcome back. Now that we've covered everything locally here in St. Louis, we're going to zoom out a little bit and go around the sports world. No bigger topic in the sports world than Super Bowl 54. Our neighbors to the west of us won the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, 31-20 on Sunday. First question, did the game live up to the hype to you, Stuart?
I think absolutely. It was an exciting game as a neutral. The whole game, it seemed to move fast. If it was a movie, the pacing was good, and you had your climax at the very end. The hero struggled in the middle, and they overcame their obstacles and had the climax at the end of the game. So I'd say as a narrative, it was a very exciting game.
So do I have you on record saying the Chiefs were the hero?
If this was a movie, absolutely it would be.
Greg, what about you? Did it live up to your expectations?
Yeah, I think so. Like like Stuart said, it was a fast game. It seemed like it just kept moving. The pace was good. It was a bit of a slow burn getting going, but the Chiefs kind of provided some firepower at the end, which is we were all kind of hanging on, waiting for Mahomes to get hot. He was kind of uncharacteristically off kilter a little bit at the beginning, I thought. But yeah, overall,
I've seen people give Mahomes some trouble about being a little subpar, but I don't think that does justice to how good the 49ers defense is. I think they're the reason why he had some struggles early.
Yeah, the 49ers are a good team. It's a big stage. I mean, it's a pressure cooker. I think you got to take all that into account. Mahomes is, 23, 24 years old.
Yeah.
It's a lot to, I think under the circumstances, any of us would have been pretty nervous out there. And he got himself together, though, and when crunch time arrived. And
it's got to be terrifying for the rest of the league that was probably his worst game of his pro career, and he still goes out and puts up 21 in the fourth quarter, wins the Super Bowl. Sky's the limit for that guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I would say the game lived up to my expectations. Up until like the last 3 or 4 minutes, I actually picked the 49ers to win. Going into the fourth quarter, my scoreline was just about ready to happen. I had it 27-24 Niners. And I think the Chiefs definitely deserve credit. I think Kyle Shanahan now, for a second time in the Super Bowl, completely mismanaged the game. You're up 20-10, and you get the ball, and you still don't win. And when I looked at the numbers, the Chiefs ran 21 more plays than the 49ers. They had 7 minutes more possession. I thought if the Niners were going to win, they had to control the possession. They had to keep Mahomes off the field. They had to run the ball a lot. Raheem Mostert only had 12 carries for 58 yards, which is actually less than Damian Williams of the Chiefs with 17 carries, 104. So I don't know what Kyle Shanahan was thinking. When you're up 20-10, fourth quarter, you got a chance to ice the game essentially, and you're not just pounding the ball over and over and over. And then obviously Garoppolo has that one third down opportunity downfield, tries to make the play, overthrows them. I think the 49ers got a lot wrong. Not to take away anything that the Chiefs did, but I think the 49ers really mismanaged that fourth quarter.
Yeah, Garoppolo threw that one on the third down into double coverage deep. That was an odd choice of play to run, but yeah, it was not that I think this changed the game, but I think the Chiefs did get slightly more favorable calls in a couple places. There weren't a lot of flags in the game, and I liked that a lot. But I think there was one instance specifically with the neutral zone infraction that was kind of obvious on the Chiefs that went uncalled. I don't know exactly how. I think that was a third down play, but ultimately that didn't change the game. But if I was a 49ers fan, if I wanted to whine about something, I'd whine first at Shanahan. As someone said, he looks like he's a middle school drug dealer.
The call that I saw the most conversation around yesterday was at the end of the first half, that offensive pass interference call. Do you guys think that was a pass interference call on the offense?
Yeah, he pushed off.
Yeah.
Was that Kittle?
Yeah, it was Kittle. Yeah. I didn't think it was pass interference, personally. If you slow it down, you can make anything look like what you want it to look like, but in real time, and I don't know, to me it was the pass interference call.
They said it was because he got him and then extended his arm.
Yeah, he had full extension. But if you look back, I think it was the Vikings-Saints game. The Vikings had a touchdown that was far more egregious of an offensive pass interference that didn't get called. And while so maybe it is offensive pass interference, but the precedent through the course of the year was they weren't calling that play, and then they call it in that game.
Yeah, that's the odd part to me.
Yes.
I think technically it probably was, but you've seen a lot worse been let go.
Correct, yeah.
And I think that's a problem with just the sport in general, is that there's so much interpretation available to officials that, what can be a penalty in one game is not another one, or, it's kind of frustrating, I guess.
The other thing I thought was odd about Shanahan was the end of the first half drive where they weren't conserving the clock. They weren't calling timeouts until there was about 15 seconds left.
You saw John Lynch losing his mind up in the booth upstairs.
Then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, wait a minute. We need to try to get a field goal or something out of this. If they had tacked on some points there, you might be talking differently today. Maybe not. I don't know. But
yeah.
I was kind of confused by that as well.
And I also understand that he knelt and he killed the last 15 seconds of the half.
Correct.
So on one hand, I can understand that you're up, but it definitely did show that there's not a killer instinct necessarily. You don't want to fumble. You don't want to get a pick six. I understand, but the odds of getting a pick six are lower than maybe your odds of getting it home run.
That's playing not to lose, and that's not playing to win.
Exactly. There's not a go for the throat mentality, and you kind of saw that in the second half with the Chiefs when they went for it on fourth down, and it was still pretty early in the second half when they did, I believe. But I don't think Shanahan goes for it on fourth in that situation.
Well, maybe the stage got to him as well.
And it's not the first time. That's the thing. We all remember that Falcons-Patriots game where that thing got out of hand, and then.
Yeah, so he's got some pretty painful Super Bowl memories.
He does, yeah. So we'll see how they recover. The next question I really want to ask you is, do you think this is the start of a Chiefs dynasty? Define dynasty however you wanted to, but in your interpretation, is this a dynasty in the making?
It has. I think it has the ingredients. I don't know if you can proclaim that until they come back.
I'm forcing you to answer and proclaim if they're going to.
Well, then I guess I got to say no. I
Okay.
think, I don't think you can start talking dynasty till they win another one.
Okay.
To me, but everything's.
I'm putting you down for a big no on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can pull this back out next year.
I'll have the audio next year. Yeah.
They got the makings of it. You know, I mean, New England's probably not going to be as good as they were. Ravens are still right there. You know, who knows about that? Tennessee's, you know, nothing insurmountable that says they couldn't.
But if you had to put your house on the line that they're going to win or not win several more with Mahomes, you taking the bet or no?
I'm not putting my house on the line.
Okay.
I think it's too hard to win in this day and age.
Okay. What about you, Stu?
If my house is on the line, statistically, it's going to be a no.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, just
No guts, no glory.
Okay.
well, if my house is on the line, if we're talking about you, I'm going to go with statistical odds. I will redefine that question as: is this the start of a Mahomes dynasty? I'd say there's a good chance about that because, as you talked about earlier, the quarterback is the most essential player for an NFL team, and Mahomes is certainly, I think without Mahomes, that was a very kind of pedestrian Chiefs team. They certainly don't win that game without him. So, if you have a player as dynamic as him, yeah, you certainly can at least make the Super Bowl another 2 or 3 times. So I guess it's a cop-out saying maybe. If my house is on the line, I'm going to say no because statistically they won't, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
I guess for me, it's what you define a dynasty because I feel like the Patriots have moved the goalpost of what a dynasty was. You know, they've essentially made the Super Bowl 50% of the time during Tom Brady's run there. That's not going to happen again. But to say that is the only thing that defines a dynasty, I don't think is necessarily the case. And I think, winning 3 and 4 or 3 and 5, something like that is very much a dynasty. Even like 3 and 6, winning 2 or 3 or 4 Super Bowls is a dynasty if you have the same quarterback along with maybe the same head coach. So I think absolutely Mahomes and the Chiefs win 2, 3, maybe 4, just because he's so dynamic. I've never seen a quarterback, and I'm not going to proclaim that he's the greatest quarterback of all time like I've seen some people say, because you can't on the small sample size, but in terms of athletic ability and what you just see with your eyes, I've never seen a guy who can change the game so quickly in so many different ways than Patrick Mahomes. And I've used the analogy before, but he reminds me, and the team reminds me of the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry, where they're almost more dangerous when they're losing because people get complacent and they forget how dangerous the team is. And then all of a sudden, Mahomes just has that extra gear and he's clearly built for the big moments and showed that on Sunday. And you alluded to the Patriots are going to probably see a decrease in their ability once Tom Brady's gone. Even if he stays, he's 43. I don't think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are quite there yet. The Titans, I mean, that was a good year, but do I think they have the quarterback to get them there again? Probably not. I'm not putting my money on Deshaun Watson and the Texans. There's nobody else out there that screams to me. We know Phillip Rivers is going to leave the Chargers, so the Chargers are going to – there's nobody else out there that's going to really challenge the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl multiple times.
Bengals next year.
Yeah.
Bengals.
Brady and the Raiders.
The Browns.
Brady and the Raiders.
I mean, that's going to be fun to watch if he ends up there, but there's no way that Brady's going to get that Raiders team to a Super Bowl.
No, and that's what I was saying. Everything is in place for Mahomes and the Chiefs to continue this run of success.
So I don't know how you can't envision it will happen.
All right, fine. You can have my house.
Okay. Okay. You got to appease our Kansas City office, right?
I don't think it matters what I say. They're on cloud 9 right now. So. And I'm sure, anybody listening in the Kansas City area tomorrow or today when you get this, maybe don't look for that delivery truck tomorrow. isn't the parade tomorrow?
Oh yeah, it's going to be a madhouse in Kansas City. Yeah, millions of people.
And some weather coming in, maybe. So.
Yeah. Well, we know the game only makes up about a third of what people care about when it comes to the Super Bowl. You got the halftime show and the commercials. So let's talk about a couple of the other things going on. First off, with the commercials, what would you say your overall letter grade is if you had to grade the commercials on the whole, A to F? You know, what's your
solid C?
Solid C.
I thought they were below average this year, but C is average, so maybe I got to give it a D because I thought they were. I just thought they were below average.
What about you, Stu?
I'd rate them a C. I mean, they're passing. They were weird, somber couple commercials that I think kind of.
The tone was all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah, I also have it as a C. What about you, Dan?
I'm gonna agree with Greg and go with a D, possibly an F. I didn't see anything that was that I would remember forever.
I think there's one exception to that. Maybe.
What's your exception? Are you going to say the Bill Murray one?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
I mean, I think it deserves credit just for getting Bill Murray to do a commercial, which, we've heard about how legendary it is. Just try to get him to do a movie. They somehow convinced him to do a commercial.
Yeah, normally there's, just they're funnier. They're I don't know, more unpredictable. Maybe I don't know what the word is, but
I apologize to my St. Louis company here, but the Anheuser-Busch Budweiser one was stupid. The Alexas talking to each other or whatever that was.
I don't even remember that one.
Yeah, see, I thought that was one of the okay ones, but it certainly wasn't. Was that you that just said they were all over the map? They just
like the Google one was like a tearjerker.
Yeah, but it was tone deaf though to me. I mean, they're asking you to give over all this information and your pictures and your personal data, and
as if we haven't already.
Well, that's a whole nother argument, but to me, there's a whole backlash with big tech and what they're doing with your data and privacy, and here this commercial's trying to play on your emotions and ask you to upload all your pictures to Alexa or whatever. I don't know.
The two that come to mind for me, and I'm not saying they were necessarily good or bad, but the two that I'll probably remember the most, the Planters commercials were just weird, but not necessarily weird enjoyable, just weird memorable.
Yeah, the hashtag baby nut was a poorly thought out hashtag by Planters.
And then you had Kool-Aid Man there, like
so is Kool-Aid Man
deflated Kool-Aid Man?
Well, I think Kool-Aid Man's the father.
Yeah, he has to be the father. It was his tear that sprung grew the.
Catch that.
Oh yeah, that was trending. Yeah.
Yeah.
But isn't that just a ripoff of Baby Yoda?
It is, and that was the point of it. I get it, but
or did I not get it?
I think that was the point. The other one to me, which I thought came off kind of stupid, but I think that was the point, is the Tom Brady Hulu commercial, because he posts that ominous picture days before the Super Bowl, and everyone, that was the media attention was, what does this picture mean? And then all of a sudden it's a Hulu commercial. That's a troll job on another level from Tom Brady. While I think the commercial was dumb, I have to give him and Hulu credit because they drove a media frenzy for a couple days, and then that was the payoff. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, I guess if you're investing that kind of money, that's kind of
it worked.
What you wanna see.
Yeah.
I will complain slightly about we used to get, I think, cheesier and worse local commercials over halftime. How they used to air regional commercials over the halftime break. Then I miss the Becky Carpet and Tile Superstore ads that were so prevalent in St. Louis over those old Super Bowl years.
Miss those in general,
Still get them every now and then for a Blues game on Fox Sports, yeah.
But yeah,
I think we're all in agreement. They're average at best, which then brings me to the halftime show. Would you guys say that was better, worse, the same than everything else that happened? And where would you rank it in halftime shows? What are your thoughts on it in general? I know you're a huge Shakira fan, so
I'm just not a halftime show guy. Most of the time it's not my kind of music, and I don't enjoy lip syncing. I thought it was. I thought it was fine in the sense that I thought it captured the flavor of Miami a little bit, and kind of fit in maybe with the whole presentation, but it wasn't really my thing.
Well, and I know you have daughters. Did they like it? Did it appeal to them more?
I'm not sure they were even watching, to be honest with you. They were probably. I was sitting next to one daughter who was either watching YouTube or TikTok the whole time. So that's
all you need to know about that.
That's a whole nother podcast. That's where this is all headed. But my wife was watching it with me and she enjoyed it. So
okay, what about you, Stu?
I thought it was a halftime show. It was better than some, worse than others. I saw nothing there that I would consider offensive. I think people getting bent out of shape was kind of...
Well, there's that whole element.
As if they've never seen, like, a cheerleader on the sideline and what they wear.
Yeah, last year...
Or Maroon 5 guy.
Yeah, Adam Levine was shirtless for the whole halftime show last year, and I don't remember a lot of complaints about that. Maybe I just didn't notice them, but... you're booking Shakira and you're booking J-Lo. You know what you're going to get. If you didn't want the pole dancing on the stage, she was just in a movie with pole dancing, or TV show.
It was a movie, yeah.
Yeah, movie. So, and you know that they approve these things ahead of time, and there's a delay in case something happens. I don't know. Shakira, I think people don't realize how big she is internationally. She's a thing in the U.S., but she's just massive globally, and she's definitely bigger globally than I'd say J-Lo is.
She's got like 50-something million followers on her social media platforms, yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if there are a lot of people outside of the country who watch the Super Bowl just for this halftime show, or it was the part that interested in them the most out of all of it. So I see people particularly upset about Shakira, and it seems silly.
I don't understand why you can't leave and come back 10 minutes later if you're
right.
that. It doesn't bother me, and I'm kind of a to each their own type of guy, and not try to pass my judgments off on other people, and I don't appreciate when they do that to me. But by the same token, if you have little kids and they're asking you what that poll is, I don't know how you answer that, so to some degree, I guess I see where those people are coming from, but I don't understand why you don't just, go take a walk or change the channel for 10 minutes and then come back.
Yeah,
rather than complain on
right. The halftime show didn't do anything for me personally, but it has nothing to do with whether or not it was or was not offensive. It just happens to do with my musical tastes.
Yeah, I don't think J-Lo has a particularly strong catalog of music.
I actually would have preferred if it was just Shakira. I actually thought her part of the set was much superior to J-Lo's second half.
Yeah, you never want the opener to upstage the
right.
main act.
My favorite part of J-Lo's whole act was A-Rod being involved.
I knew you were
he's
running through the crowd, selfieing himself.
Yeah, and also great for his reputation. What a rehabilitation he's had in the last few years.
There's just something about a lip syncing concert that I get why it's done. I understand, but it takes me out of it, whether it's an award show or a halftime show or whatever.
I don't get why it's done, because the really legendary bands that come and perform there don't do it.
Well, you're right about that, but it's because of the amount of dancing choreography. Because I agree, U2, Springsteen, McCartney, and Prince are my Mount Rushmore of halftime shows.
Tom Petty was close.
Petty's good too, and they all did live shows, but they're standing there with a guitar and they're playing. To whether it's Britney or Madonna or Gaga or whoever, they're all doing a lot of choreographed stuff. Timberlake, all of them, they all have so much theatrics to it that I get it, but I don't know. It just I
So
have
don't
trouble
even
with-
give them a mic. If it's just going to be dancing, just let them dance.
Yeah, it's not a bad
Yeah,
idea.
I'm with you on that.
I haven't watched a halftime show in 20 years, so I'm not going to.
So you missed the Prince show?
Well, I watched it later on.
Don't give them all a bad name.
No, they're not. They're not all bad. I'm not going to say they are, but 20 years ago, I found this thing called my remote, and my remote turns to different channels. So,
So if you're offended,
yeah, if you're offended,
let's say by Shakira,
yeah,
you
Go
Turn
eat some
the
chicken.
channel.
Go eat some chicken wings or something. Yeah.
yeah.
right, or walk them off, or walk the dog, or there's a litany of things you could do if you don't want to watch or don't care to watch, or you're offended.
Yeah, refresh the bean dip.
There you go.
All right, so we got about a minute left on this half. Just really quickly, favorite part of the Super Bowl? What was your favorite part of the Super Bowl? The whole thing, start to finish. Do you have something that's going to last with you? I'm putting you on the spot, Greg.
No,
Nothing.
nothing.
So it's kind of a forgettable Super Bowl for you.
coin toss. Yeah. No,
Okay. What about you, Stu?
Actually, I
No?
take that back. I thought it was cool they had the World War II veterans out there at the coin toss.
Yes.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Good look for the NFL there.
It was a great game. I don't think there was a real standout moment though.
Stu, anything that stood out to you, start to finish?
No, for me it was a personal thing. Just my niece and nephew live in Kansas City, and they're little kids, and just seeing them get excited was for me the best part. Other than that, I wouldn't remember this.
I think the parade tomorrow will be the best part of the Super Bowl.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you that I think on the whole, if you're not from Missouri, the Super Bowl is probably not going to mean much.
Kansas.
Or Kansas. But I feel like the Super Bowl needs a villain. And as much as we all rooted for the Patriots to go out early, there's something about seeing the Patriots in the Super Bowl and then a team like the Giants overcoming them that is why those are more memorable. And this Super Bowl didn't really have a villain aside from, maybe a couple of guys on the teams or something like that aren't the level of, a Patriots or a Belichick or a Brady. So for me, it just kind of missed a villain.
Yeah, and I think the most likely villain was a player who was on maybe the winning team.
We're talking about Tyreek Hill.
Just with his history, and I know there's a lot of questions. We'll not get into that, and I know he's really been cleared of a lot of things in the past. But if people pound the narrative of one way or the other, I shouldn't get into that right now, and my apologies for the people who are going to get their jimmies rustled on that one.
Okay, well, that's the end of the second half. I'm actually going to throw my 5-minute overtime card into the shuffle because the Super Bowl covered so much, but we didn't really get to some of the other things out there. And it was a busy week of sports, so got 5 more minutes. A couple of things I want to get to, and I want to get your opinion. So Liverpool versus Manchester City. They didn't necessarily play each other, but they're battling for the Premier League supremacy. Looks like, by all accounts, Liverpool will have the title won. As somebody who has supported Liverpool for a long time, I just had to make sure I used my overtime to really say how amazing it feels right now. Yet also at the same time, there's that little part of me that remembers the painful memories of 2013, 2014. And so until it's mathematically over, I'm not calling it yet. Also, the Australian Open happened over the last couple of weeks. Novak Djokovic won 8th Australian title. We had an American, Sophia Kenin, win the women's side. Really cool story for her. Then UFC 247s this Saturday. John Jones, who's by all accounts one of the 2 or 3 greatest mixed martial arts fighters of all time, defending his light heavyweight title. So a lot of stuff's going on in the sports world, and I just wanted to kind of open these last 3-4 minutes. You guys want to talk about, the Premier League, tennis, mixed martial arts? Jump in.
Well, I would say we shouldn't call the title yet because the title's been called for about 5-6 weeks.
I refuse to believe that.
Well, as someone who's not a Liverpool supporter, I feel very confident it would take a 2011 Red Sox or Braves style collapse at the very end for Liverpool to not win.
Could happen.
I mean, yeah, anything's possible. It just doesn't seem for a team like this that it's
If it happens somehow,
yeah.
you're not going to see me ever again because my heart will not be able to take that kind of a choke job by a sports team. So, Dan, I know you're a tennis guy. I want to get your opinion on the Australian Open, specifically.
I love the Australian.
Djokovic. So it's his 17th Grand Slam. He's 2 behind Nadal and 3 behind Federer all time. So they're 1, 2, and 3. Being a tennis guy, and you certainly know the history of it, where would you rank Novak Djokovic right now with 17 Grand Slams amongst the all-time greats?
Wow, that's a good question. Right now, Federer and Nadal are just they've just been so dominant lately that I think they've both taken the top spots away from Lindell and Sampras and a few of the other Borg but Joker's right there with them. He's such a good player. He's so consistent. He's got a good forehand. He's got a good backhand. He's got a nice serve. So I hate to be down on these older generation players, but I would have to put him third, right behind Nadal and Federer than Nadal, then Joker. Then I'd probably throw Pete Sampras in there, and Borg McEnroe were so good. I mean, there's so many good players that have been coming through the ranks, but lately, I think in the past 10 years, tennis has just blossomed into a beautiful sport on both sides, men's side and the women's side.
Yeah, I mean, we only have about a minute and a half, and I've been a big tennis fan my whole life too. I honestly thought when Pete Sampras retired at 14 Grand Slams, I thought that's never going to happen again. Nobody's going to get to 14. And then over the last 15 years or so, we've seen 3 guys eclipse that. And by all accounts, Djokovic, being 3 behind Federer and 6 years younger, is probably going to eclipse Federer in terms of total Grand Slams. So it's just absurd. Nobody else other than these 3 guys has won a Grand Slam since 2016. The dominance of these 3 men is something that the sports world has never seen. Literally the 3 best players are all playing at the exact same time, and it's only going to last for another maybe year or two until Federer. I don't know how at 38 he's still going so strong.
Yeah,
but it's something we'll never see again. So just enjoy, if you're a tennis fan, enjoy this because this is unprecedented.
He was struggling mightily in the Australian, wasn't he, Federer?
Yeah, but he came in ranked third. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that the other 2 greatest tennis players alive are younger than him, he'd be the best still. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I just mean with injury. He looked hurt. Yeah,
and Nadal's an old 33. Nadal's had a lot of injuries too. But it's just astounding that, it's become so commonplace that these 3 guys dominate, but it's never going to happen again.
No, and again, back to the older generation, there was quite a big log jam of really good players that were consistently beating each other. But it's nice to see that it's the 3 or 4 of them. I mean, there's still some great tennis players out there under the right there past them. I love Wawrinka. I love watching him play. It's just a beautiful tournament. I love watching it all. I especially love watching the women. It's just such a fluid game these days. So
yeah, well, that'll do it for that overtime period as well. Before we get into our food for thought, I really quickly wanted to touch upon that we've been doing a greatest sports moment of all time battle on our Twitter page on STL Break. So if you're on Twitter, be sure to go over to the STL Break page and follow us. We are down to the final, which we'll have voting up later this week. But it ultimately came down to Michael Phelps in his Olympics. He won 8 gold medals, and that goes up against Jackie Robinson's first game breaking the color barrier. So those are the 2 final moments that our Twitter followers have determined were the best. Really quickly around the room, if we're talking Michael Phelps in 08 or Jackie Robinson's first game, what to you was the bigger sports moment?
Jackie Robinson, no doubt.
Same.
Oh, yeah, Jackie.
Yeah, it's unanimous. That's the only moment on the whole bracket that really transcends sports to me. So I'd be stunned if Michael Phelps was able to beat Jackie Robinson. But be sure to keep your eyes on the STL Break page. We'll have that vote up later. And then starting next week, we'll have a new battle for the greatest athlete of all time. That'll be a lot of fun.
Tony Hawk.
He's in the bracket. Okay, we're going to go over to our next segment. It's our food for thought. So it's something we've been thinking about all week we haven't been able to let go of. We're just going to go around the room. We will get over to Stu, who has his food for thought. What you got, Stu?
I think a real quick plug, missed this in the Battlehawks talk. The Rogue Squadron, who's the supporters group for Battlehawks, are doing their watch parties at the 612 Kitchen in Kirkwood. So if you want to join them at 4 p.m. on Sunday, that's where they'll be.
It's going to be rowdy down there.
There might be people there.
Is that your food for thought for the week?
Yeah, I
Okay.
want to plug Rogue Squadron real quick.
Dan, do you have a food for thought? I know you're sitting over here on the producer's mic chomping at the bit.
Well, yeah, chomping at the bit. But no, I've done it before. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to plug Mid-States hockey. I just love watching Mid-States hockey. And tonight there's a huge game, Vianney versus Francis Howell over at Webster at 8:50. Determines who the last player entering the playoffs is. And it's funny. Slew's been, well, they're not quite knocked out, but they could get knocked out today. A big one, Chaminade was knocked out, but you still got CBC. Priory slipped in there. DeSmet, Summit. So we got some good hockey left to come for this next month. $5 per person, and they all have good concession stands.
Good stuff, Dan. Definitely get out there and support local hockey. Always a good thing.
Vianney. Go Gruner boys.
Okay, I am going to dedicate my food for thought to an athlete that has dominated the last couple of weeks. That's Kobe Bryant. We didn't have an episode last week to get into it, and it's probably a good thing because I wasn't really in the mood to talk about it, but I think I've had the time to compose myself, so bear with me for a minute. I have a couple of bullet points. It might get a little long, but I'll try to keep it short. So I've been a basketball fan about as long as I can remember. I've probably loved the sport longer than any other in terms of, at a young age, I just gravitated towards it. I think Kobe was one of the most entertaining and also complex sports stars we've ever had in our lifetime. He was always my second favorite basketball player behind Michael Jordan, who was the person who got me into the sport. And really, at the age of 34, there are only two other athletes to me that come to mind who I remember seeing start and end their career essentially, who are as big as Kobe. It was Kobe, it was Roger Federer, and it was Tiger Woods. And those are the three to me that come to mind that sort of transcended sports at a different level. But Kobe was the one that I gravitated to the most. He is the reason I became and still am a huge Lakers fan. To me, he was the only player I'd ever seen in basketball who was willing to go after Jordan's greatness head on. Everyone else ran from the Jordan comparisons. Nobody wanted to get into that because they knew they couldn't win. And Kobe actually had the audacity at 17 or 18 years old to want to be Michael Jordan. And I thought that appealed to me because very few people wanted to go at something that lofty, but he knew from such a young age that he wanted to. Legendary work ethic, drive to be the best. I remember the probably the story that sums up his work ethic was, it was the end of his career and he ruptures his Achilles, which if you happen to watch the finals last year and you saw Durant do the same thing, he couldn't even walk. I mean, the rupturing your Achilles is about as painful as any injury can get. Kobe doesn't even really wince and gets up, goes and takes 2 free throws because he knows if he doesn't take those free throws, he can't come in the game. So in his mind, he still thinks he's going to be able to take those free throws, go to the back, get somehow medical clearance to play again. So he nails both free throws and walks off with a ruptured Achilles. It's unreal. So he had the work ethic that I'd rarely seen. He was also one of the few athletes that was so supremely gifted, yet didn't rest on his laurels and worked just as hard as if I heard someone say that he was the best player on his team, but he always worked like he was the 12th man on the bench. And that really resonated with me. He was sort of like a real-life superhero on the court, and he always played like he was invincible. So to hear that something happened to this person who felt so invincible was really surprising to me. But his story also can't fully be told without discussing the 2003 rape allegations. The charges were ultimately dropped, and he settled in a civil suit out of court, but it always left some mixed emotions with me. He sort of distanced himself from discussing it over the last 17 years of his life. And I was always left wondering, what if he had used his massive platform to speak about how it changed him as a man, as a father, as a husband? We'll sadly never get to see if he would go on to do that. And we would also never get to see if the post-playing Kobe would have eclipsed the player that we saw, because we knew how important he became as a father in his later life. He certainly put his family first towards the end of his life, while he had to take so much putting himself first and putting them behind during his playing career. So it was cool to see him transitioning in that way. Ultimately, though, the lasting feeling I have is one of sadness for his wife, his 3 daughters who are still alive, all the other families. There were many other families that are feeling the effects of the people that passed away. And it kind of helped me put my life and the value of it in new perspective. It's a reminder that time isn't long and we can all go in the blink of an eye. So don't take for granted your friends, your family, the people that you see every day. Don't waste time on, petty arguments and little silly things. Just reach out to people who are close to you. Let them know how valuable they are to you because, things can change really quickly. So that's my thoughts on Kobe Bryant in that situation. So we're going to take a quick 60 seconds away, and we'll be back to wrap things up with our Breakroom Battle, so don't go anywhere.
This is Emily from Office Essentials. Did you know that germs on hands can be transferred up to 7 times, making frequently touched surfaces in the office hotspots for viruses? And a virus can spread through an entire office in just a few hours. Some germs can even live for days on hard surfaces. So hotspots like door handles, keyboards, light switches, desktops, and even elevator buttons should be cleaned even more often. And don't forget about the kitchen. Break rooms have some of the germiest surfaces in the entire office. Sink faucets, microwaves, and refrigerator handles too. Office Essentials can help you protect your office from sickness this flu season. Right now at stlofficesupplies.com, we're offering a free printable poster that you can print and hang around your office. It contains tips to help coworkers prevent the spread of the flu. Office Essentials is your hometown supplier of all the office supplies and furniture you need to run and grow your business. Learn more today at stlofficesupplies.com.
Thanks for sticking around. We're back with our Breakroom Battle for the week. So the question that we will have up on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and our Office Essentials Breakroom this week is, are you interested in the St. Louis Battlehawks and the XFL in general? Yes or no? Around the room really quickly. Stu, yes or no? Greg?
No.
Dan?
No way.
I'm going to say yes for week 1. Okay, that'll do it for this week's episode. Be sure to tell your friends if you like what you heard. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode, and we'll catch you again next week.